Why are my 8 kids' names so unique and different? You asked, and I'm here to explain it to you. Hi, I'm Rosalie. I'm a mom to 6 boys and 2 girls, and how my late husband and I came up with each of their unique names has a special meaning and a story to tell. Starting with our firstborn son, Aryan. Now, I know what you're thinking. Aryan, who would name their kid Aryan? Well, what you don't know is that the name Aryan has been around since ancient times. It originates from Sanskrit and the Indo-Iranians, and it means of nobility. Now, I had to record this video on separate days, so I'm going to insert a story right here. We discovered that I was pregnant 1 week after we married. And the following weekend, on a Sunday, I took a pregnancy test and it was positive. So to mark the significance of the occasion, we went to Ottawa and we bought a ring. And it's just a plain platinum band. Now, I already had my engagement ring, and then my wedding ring was custom made based on a design that I gave them. I hope you can see that. So I had my engagement ring, I had my wedding ring. Hopefully that's focusing. And then we went back to Ottawa because we bought my engagement ring in Ottawa. And we bought another plain band to go with this Trinity. So these 3 rings, this completes my wedding set. There's a Trinity of rings, and the number 3 has significant meaning to my husband. He loves the number 3. This first ring is our engagement. The wedding ring is our marriage, and then the third one signifies our eternity together. It's just a plain platinum band, and it just goes around it in a circle. It doesn't end, it goes around forever, and that signifies our eternity together. The reason why I'm wearing a different wedding band now is just because having so many children, my weight would fluctuate, it would go up and down. So my original wedding ring wouldn't fit, it was too tight, so I had to go up a size. So that's the day we found out I was pregnant with Aryan. It took us months and months and months to come up with the names that we have for our children. We put a lot of thought into it. We didn't want a common name, and we didn't want a name of somebody that we didn't like. For example, I have never met a good Crystal. It's uncanny, but we didn't want any negative associations to the name. Another thing is that we wanted a name that had meaning to it. I was named after a song my mom liked called Rosalie. My husband was named after an actor, and like Gene Autry, the actor, and his dad liked the name because of Saint Eugene. So meaning was important. Another thing is that I am one that loves history. I love to connect to people through history. I think about what it would have been like to live the life that they lived. And that's how I connect to people. We also put a lot of thought into the names because we didn't want it to be shortened into a nickname, as people tend to do, such as the name Alexander, like Alexander the Great. I love the name Alexander, but I know that people are just going to call him Alex. Next born was our son Julius. Now, Julius is probably the most regular name out of all my children. We found out that I was pregnant with our second born, Julius, when we were moving from Ontario to BC. So we were driving across Canada, and that morning in the hotel room, I was hit with nausea, morning sickness. So we picked up a pregnancy test and we stopped off at a Tim Hortons, and I took the pregnancy test in the bathroom at Tim Hortons. This was still in Alberta. it was positive. And then we were continuing on that day. We hit BC, and I had to go through the mountains with morning sickness in BC. So the way we came up with Julius's name is because I like history and I like ancient Rome, and he's named after Julius Caesar. So BC didn't work out for us, and we ended up living in Saskatchewan instead. That is where Julius was born, and then I became pregnant with our third child, Adonis. Now, Adonis, we had a little bit more trouble coming up with his name, but finally we settled on Adonis because, again, looking at history, in ancient Greek mythology, there is a character called Adonis, and he is a mortal that the goddess of love, Aphrodite, fell in love with. And Adonis is also an adjective. It means good looking. So if somebody is very Adonis, it means they're very good looking. So that's the meaning of Adonis's name. And then our fourth child, Victory. By then we had left Saskatchewan and we were living in BC again in Niagara Falls. And at that point in time, the recession was in full swing, and we had lost a lot of money in the stock market. My husband took that very hard, so he fell into depression because he thought he messed things up, and he was starting to have suicidal thoughts. And lo and behold, to both of our surprise, I became pregnant again with Victory. So with Victory, his name came about because the word victory is in my husband's system, so it has significant meaning again. And with the coming of our fourth, my husband was able then to overcome some of these dark thoughts that he was having. So Victory was born in Niagara Falls, and then we moved again, and I became pregnant with our fifth child, Deity. Now, Deity, that name I was actually keeping in case we had a girl, but I looked it up and it's a neutral word. So Deity's name is off the word deity, of like a god, a deity. I like to pronounce it Deity, and that is how we came up with Deity's name. And finally, after Deity, our sixth child was our first girl. And the word passion is also in my husband's system. That is very significant to him. And also passion has such a wonderful meaning to it, because to be passionate about something in your life is just makes you feel so alive. So passion is such a wonderful word, and that became Passion's name. Our sixth child, our first daughter. And it worked out wonderfully because after Passion, we had another girl. And so she wouldn't be alone as the only girl. And with our seventh child, we named her Empress. Empress is self-explanatory. And so that's how we came up with her name. Now, our eighth and final child is Eugenius. And we were thinking, gosh, how are we ever going to come up with a name for our eighth child that's just as good as these other names that we thought of? So again, we borrowed the name from history, and there were a few popes throughout history that were called Pope Eugenius. Particularly, I remember one of the popes that commissioned the Third Crusade, I think it was. Pope Eugenius III commissioned one of the crusades in history. There were 3 crusades. I can't remember which one he commissioned. So my husband's name is Eugene, and he was brought up Catholic, so his name is actually Joseph Eugene. And I'm told that all Catholic boys have Joseph in front of their name, and all girls brought up Catholic have the name Mary put in front of their name. Okay, so my husband didn't much like his name for two reasons when we came together. One was we lived in a city that was half French-speaking people and half English-speaking people. And since I don't speak French, when I would say his name, I would put the emphasis on the last syllable. So Eugene, like today, tonight. Whereas the French Canadians would put the emphasis on the first part of his name, so they would say it like Eugene. Or they would put the emphasis on the first syllable. I don't know if I can do that right. Eugene. I don't know. Anyway, they would put the emphasis on the first syllable, and he loved the way I said his name. Other people would just shorten it and call him Gene. And one day I looked up the meaning of his name, and it said, of good genetics. So you meaning good, gene meaning genetics, of good genetics. And he liked that. So then he started to like his name. Back to our 8th child. My husband thought that it would be nice to call him Eugene. And since my husband was alive at that time still, I didn't want to call our son Eugene and then my husband Eugene too. So with the name Eugenius, it has such a fancy and eloquent ring to it. That way we could still name our son after his father, Eugene, and it would still be a different name. And I do use Eugenius's full name on a daily basis, but I do find myself at times naturally just shortening it to Eugene. So it's a wonderful link to his father, and his dad passed away when Eugenius was almost 1.5 years old, unfortunately. So Eugenius's name closes off the circle, so it goes from parents to children back to parents. And if you're wondering where my name is, the girls have my name as their middle name. So it's Passion Rosalie and Empress Rosalie. So that is something I thought of and wanted to do when I was pregnant with our first child. I wanted to name all of the boys with the middle name Eugene, like their dad, and any girls that we would have, I wanted their middle name to be my name. So if you stuck with me up until now, you have a lot of patience, and I thank you for being here with me. Remember to keep love in your heart, and as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.